Welcome to La Alma Dorada podcast. Today, we have an extraordinary guest whose work is profoundly transforming lives. She is Naa Amerley Asante-Armar, a London-born Ghanaian woman with deep roots in Ghana, a mother of two, a lawyer of 20 years of experience, a leader dedicated to emotional well-being and empowerment. Na is not only a creator of the platform like the Black Woman Venting Room and African Diaspora Venting Room, but she's also a future presidential candidate of Ghana with a mission to create lasting change in the nation and the African continent. Her work in emotional healing, leadership, and justice has impacted thousands, helping individuals reclaim their voices, held their hearts, and take meaningful actions in their life. Today, we will explore her mission, her vision for Ghana and Africa, and how we can contribute to build a better future. Na, welcome to La Alma Dorada.
Thank you so much for having me, Sister Karola. Always an honor to speak to you and lovely to be here.
It's an honor to have you here. Na, I will ask you first, beside all the things that you have done and you will continue doing, like to know who is Naa Amerley.
Wow. Okay. So Naa Amerley, as you said, I'm a UK-born Ghanaian. Those who have known me for a long time, they will know me by Angela. Naa Amerley is my Ghanaian name. And I relocated to Ghana with my two sons back in 2020. So we've been here on and off for a while. But even before then, I am the firstborn of seven daughters. And three daughters where we have the same parents, and then four more sisters in individual families, if I can say that. So as the firstborn, it's wonderful to have lots of sisters. We are based in the UK and in Ghana. So a few of us here in Ghana, the majority of us in the UK. As you said, I'm an employment lawyer. I have been practicing for over 20 years, and now I use that experience to assist employees online, employees in the UK who have employment disputes, to navigate through the tribunal process, which is the court system for employment disputes. Outside of that, mum to my two boys, they are 14 and 11 now, and they're a real joy. We're growing to be young men, teaching me as much as I'm teaching them. It's amazing how much wisdom our children have. I'm also a partner. My partner here, born and bred in Ghana, and amongst the things I do, you've mentioned the venting rooms. A Black parents venting room is coming soon, just to add that, because I really believe that it's important for us all, no matter where we are in our journey, to have space to express ourselves, especially when we're not feeling so good, but in a way that we don't feel that someone's going to use it against us later on, so that we can have peace, we can be in better wellness, for ourselves and also for anybody who depends on us. So very passionate about that. I am the CEO of a non-profit here in Ghana called Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa. And its main vision and aims encompass really improving the condition of African women and girls, so that the more that we do better, the more actually the whole community and society and the country does better.
Wow, that's a lot, a lot, a lot. I'm impressed. That's a lot in the plate for a woman, but women are multitask, and I think we are that what they call Wonder Woman, right? Your work focus on helping women, especially mothers in their 30s and 40s, who feel they're lost their sense of self. What do you believe are the main reasons why many women lose their identity at this stage, and how do you guide them?
Okay, thank you. So I think a lot of us, first, there's the general state where the more responsibilities anybody has, I think it's easier to get lost in them, to give to those things and take away from yourself. And then as mothers, especially in that role, in giving so much nurturing to one child, two children, however many children, whilst also trying to manage professional life, maybe extended family life. You may have a church community, managing lots of different things. You tend to, give. That is usually innate in us. And 30s and 40s, of course, we know we have younger mothers, we have older mothers. It really stemmed from my own experience. You know, I had my first child when I was 33, and then 2.5 years later, I had another child. It wasn't until probably, let's see, six, when the eldest was 6 years old, that I really came to grips that with the fact that I wasn't myself. I wasn't really myself. I knew I was a wife, a mother, a lawyer, a sibling, a daughter, all these other things. But if you were to really ask me who I was at that time, I don't know what question I would have given you. I was so far away from the person I was when I met my then husband and then started having children. So in terms of taking the steps to kind of re-find ourselves, it starts with asking questions. I managed to find, or I was informed of, first I did some actually counseling. I did some marriage counseling by myself, which is a story for another time. But I really took the opportunity to be with somebody else and have some feedback about what was going on with me, because I was very isolated at that time. Um, and then after that, going into learning self-development, finding out about myself. So when I work with women and especially mothers, I kind of start with, well, of course, what challenges they're facing at that time, and also what do they like to do, what did they love to do. And for me, the thing was music. I've been involved in music since I was a child. I learned to play the violin when I was age 7, and I went through a number of orchestras and choirs. I love to sing, so music was a big part of my upbringing. If you didn't find me in school or at home, I was singing or playing somewhere. And when I met my then husband, everything that I was doing at the point that I met him, by the time I'd had my second son, I was not doing a single one of those things. So I'd completely, given up something that was a big part of who I was. So no wonder I was lost. So I really work with women to find out, to ask them questions, to ask themselves questions. What is it that you love to do now, or you loved to do, and you can no longer find the time, and then look at how can we infuse those things into your everyday life now, knowing that, well, you've got other responsibilities.
That's so great. I love it. I think it was a great idea, and it's a wonderful idea because you mentioned isolation and also doing something that you love. And I believe personally that as women, when we go through hardship, or heartbroken, situations. Most of us, we always go to isolation, but there's always people telling us what to do around us, and that instead of uplifting us, uh, break us down. I love the doing something that you love, like you choose music. I can resonate to that. I can recall a time that I was going through something, and I focus myself in art, which I love. So this is wonderful. I love it. You also work with men through emotional crisis, such as divorce. What differences have you observed in how men and women process emotional pain, and what strategies do you use to help them heal moving forward?
Well, for men, I think for the most part, it may sound stereotypical, but it's often harder for them to know how to express their emotions. First, first things need to make sense. There's a real need to rationalize, find the logic, and analyze the situation. And we all have that ability, obviously, to analyze. We think, we don't understand why we are where we are. But it can be to the extent that then that causes a barrier to them even being able to name the emotions that they're feeling or the feelings that they're feeling, making it hard for them to be able to say, in this instance, I feel betrayed, or I felt like I was naive, or I felt stupid. And when they realize that's how they feel, sometimes it can come as a shock to them because they didn't realize they even got to that space. However, the real power in naming our emotions and our feelings is that then they lose their power to control us, because it's like they were hiding and then we shone a light on them. So a lot of it really is that it's like, well, you're in this situation, you can't physically change the other person if we're talking relationships, marriages. So it comes down to you. So what do you make of all this? How do you feel about it? What do you want to do? And there will be the negative side. Sometimes when you feel that real sense of betrayal, you're thinking about, you know, vengeance, or how you make the other person, you force the other person to see things your way. I think you and I both know that that's not always possible. The other person, sometimes either they don't want to see things your way, or they literally are incapable, because the two of you are just traveling now completely different paths. Your ways of thinking and seeing each other are just completely different. So once they get to, okay, this is how I feel, and they get to process that, it takes a while before then it's like, okay, so what would you love to do from this point, even whether you think it's achievable right now, but what long term, what do you want to do, from here, and planting those seeds about what comes next, whilst recognizing that it's still going to take a while. It's going to take a while for this life you've led, whether you've been married a year or in a relationship for a year, 5 years, 10 years. When you move forward, I don't think for any of us really, you don't leave it all behind. So it's just trying to, how do you live your life and still cope with this thing whilst moving, trying to move forward to create something else.
I'm glad there is a place for men to go and, express themselves freely without judgment, especially if women are involved. I have a question, and my question is why Black women venting room? Why Black men venting room?
So I started with the Black women venting room off the back of a conversation. I think it was a post that I'd seen that somebody had placed there about the narrative of the strong Black woman. So that led to a conversation about, how often we as Black women are expected to do a lot. And I could say society, but I think even of each other, sometimes we expect a lot of us, that we're supposed to be able to do everything, sometimes single handedly, and then smile about it. So it kind of came from there, which led to, where do we have a space of to speak about how we really feel without somebody saying that, oh no, stop complaining, just get up and get on with it. Okay. So it stemmed from there. I used to run a room called the Monday Rising Venting Hour with an elder sister, if you like. And again, that was one form of it. The Black Women Venting Room is what hit Clubhouse, where that now was audio. And you don't see anyone, you just hear the voices. And it was to be made clear that this is not a debating forum. You and you alone have lived the life or the experiences that you have lived, and therefore no one gets to challenge your feelings, even if they can say, well, factually, did this happen? They can't debate how you felt, because only you felt it. So it's to create that space. And Black women, because we have, as let's say, as people with this skin color, we have so many different ways to identify ourselves. And I'm a Ghanaian, born in the UK, so technically I'm a diasporan. Ghana is in West Africa. I'm an African. Like, I have a number of labels to identify myself. Let alone now where you come from, other places in the world. And my mission was really that I don't really care where you are. If you look like me, then let's have this space, because I'm sure that we may have similar experiences and we want to support each other from there. So I toyed with the idea. The Black Women Inventing Room did used to sit in the African matriarch, you see, because I am African. However, it was clear that it's for Black women, however you identify yourself, melanated, indigenous, American, because we have a lot of names, but where we can all feel accepted. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. The idea of a place where you can go and vent without being called a Black angry woman. That's amazing. You are on the path to becoming Ghana's first female president. What fundamental change do you want to implement in Ghana, particularly regarding empowering women and ensuring equal opportunities?
Thank you. Well, that one is a huge task. Obviously, there are many things as women that we need, even the citizens we need. But a lot of it starts with information and education. Me having grown up in the UK and now moving here to live in Ghana, I realized how privileged I was to have access to information. You can take it for granted until you get to a place where that information flow is not as free. So, and our education system here in Ghana, I would say it's not really dictated by Ghanaians. Okay, so a lot of it is to do with how can we get more information to the women and the girls, the citizens, of the practices that actually support us, in terms of who we are, how we live. So yes, we can talk about menstruation, which is a huge part of our life, until we hit menopause, who we are as women, clearing any stigmas around that. So there's knowledge of how we're supposed to show up in terms of, depending on what faith if you belong to a faith, a religion, what have you, these ideas of women are submissive. There are a lot of narratives to break down that are not actually the reality of what we're living. So education of it is a lot. So education is a big part of it. Of course, there's economic empowerment in terms of, to me, it does not make sense. I say that Mother Ghana, because we call Ghana a woman, Mother Ghana, she will not thrive. How can she ever thrive if her physical representations, the women, are suppressed, or they're not able to fulfill their potential? So that girls and women, just to be able to work more if they want to do that, have healthy pregnancies. And at the moment, it seems to be that there are these glass ceilings or barriers, stopping some of us from being able to have the education that we want, have the jobs, or create the businesses that we want. And the most obvious thing is that it's not just the women or the girls suffering; the whole country is suffering as a result. You know, on the information sharing side, it's also, and then being practical, physically on the ground, speaking to women about, we keep complaining about, politicians and what have you, but if you want something to change, you have to be part of it. So a lot of it is, if you like, advocacy, campaigning, speaking to women, encouraging them to, assembly member, why don't you look into becoming a politician? We need to be in the places where we can make the decisions that most affect us. So there are a number of different things where it's conversations. Of course, finances come into it. And trying to meet the different, if you like, classes, from whether it's the the market women, the mad women, as we call them, people that their mental health is not good. Some are walking around that they don't even have clothes, and they're ostracized from society. But talk to them too, because they are part of our society. So lots of conversations. And I'm excited at the moment because we, as part of our Mothers Foundation Africa, have been invited into partnership with another non-profit here called NCVO Ghana, to form the Free Pad Alliance. So this is us working to improve menstrual health, menstrual hygiene by eradicating period poverty. And you and I both know that we say period poverty, there are so many things that's involved in that. Like we say, from education to health, you have to change policies, finances have to come into it. You have to talk about cultural awareness in terms of, what people think or how people think girls are supposed to behave, environmental issues. So there are a lot of things.
Totally. There's a lot of things. I am very excited. I remember the first time I heard that you want to become the first president of Ghana. I was like, yes. It inspired me actually to see a Black woman who wanted to be a president. And it's not because of the title of being sitting in that chair, it's just the bravery of, you know what, I'm gonna go in this massive monopolic control by men, but I'm here and I'm gonna do it. So I believe that you are gonna be the next woman, first female president of Ghana. We don't know when, but you are going to be.
Thank you.
But
And that's what I usually say. Not if, but when.
absolutely, you will be. As lawyers specializing in employment law, you help UK employees navigate their tribunal system. How do you see the connection between emotional well being and access to justice in the workplace?
Well, our emotional well-being is way more important than we think it is. Sometimes we think, oh yeah, you're just feeling this way and what have you. However, our emotions actually drive our actions, the decisions that we make. Emotions we can refer to, or some refer to, as energy in motion. And when we don't have a handle on those emotions, when we don't process them, they can cause us physical disease, which is one reason why I feel it's so important that we vent, we let them out, so we see them, we feel them. And if we don't have emotional balance, or at least awareness of ourselves, we can make decisions that are dysfunctional. But we may not be aware that we are actually being controlled by those emotions. So we need that balance, because emotions are one thing, if not the only thing, that make us human. So it's I disregard, or I dismiss, or don't accept that at home you're one way, and then when you go to work you're completely another way. Like that's nonsense. When you go to work, wherever you work, whatever you do, as long as there are human beings involved, that business or that outfit, it survives on the quality of its relationships. If you do not have good emotional balance or awareness, or at least acceptance that, oh, this person, maybe they feel like this today, they feel like that today, then it's not going to make for good flourishing, productive relationships, and therefore your work is not going to do well. So it's very important. And I've been speaking about that actually just last week in Ghana, in terms of, if you like, the power of venting for managing our stress and work-life balance or harmony, is to accept that, yeah, we all feel a certain way about something, and no, you can't always shove your emotions in the pocket just because you've gone to work. So how do you actually make that part of everyday life, including working life? Do we need to have Friday coffee mornings or something, where everybody gets to say, oh, this is what's been up with me this week, and have their own kind of venting session in a way that's appropriate to the workplace. But our emotional health, well-being, balance, it affects everything.
Definitely. I like What you say about emotion is what make us human, which is so truth. And I totally believe that we need a venting room everywhere, especially in countries that are called third world countries where people don't have the opportunity to pay for a psychologist or, you know, shrink, how they call it in America. Your platforms like the Black Men and Black Women Venting Room and the Africa Diaspora Venting Room have created spaces for emotional validation. How did the idea for this platform came about and what impact have you seen in the communities they serve?
Okay, so it actually, on the back of the conversation I said about the strong Black women narrative, we'd had a few meetings, I think, about that. Then a friend had said to me, but why don't you? I think they'd invited me to support somebody who needed to vent, a group of us. And then they said, well, why don't you go and do that? Why don't you go and create one of these things? So that was what gave rise to the Monday Rising Venting Hour. And so I did that for a while, and then I was just catching up with technology. So Clubhouse came up, and I thought, oh, what's this space? Then I thought, okay, let me create this space here and see how that goes. We're now off Clubhouse. Now we have a WhatsApp group, and we tend to meet on Google Meet. And in that instance, it's now very focused on just the people who are members of that room. On Clubhouse, anybody could come to the room, but only if it was the Black women venting room, only Black women were allowed to speak, so that they didn't feel that their emotions would be challenged or debated. But it did give the opportunity for other people, not Black, not women, to hear us, I guess, from that perspective. What we go through in our own words. So I do think that that was beneficial. However, moving on to the platform where we are now, which is just Black women, it has been phenomenal in the sense that I don't know if sometimes I take it for granted, something that's so natural to me. And it's partly for me as well, in terms of in the venting rooms, the facilitators. In the Black women venting room, there are 5 of us. In the Black men venting room, it's me and another woman that facilitate. We hold the space for the men. However, we all get to share as if we are members of the venting room. So it's not a hierarchy, it's like a circle. And so in that space, because I hold the space, it's there. Sometimes I think I underestimate the power of listening to someone else from some place that maybe you've never heard of or never visited, share their experience and be gripped, because the way they share their experience, they could just be telling my own story. And you think, how on earth? And it can bring up feelings or thoughts about, wow, there was that time I was going through that thing and I thought it was just me. People were telling me I was crazy, that there's something wrong with me. And I was not the only one. That need for humanization and validation, it's a real need. It's not a weakness, it's a human need. We need to know that essentially there's nothing wrong with us. We're not broken. It's normal for us to or it's common, let me not say normal, but common for us to have gone through what we went through. And therefore, potentially, it was not our fault. It was not our fault that we experienced something. Because without all these answers, and when you are isolated, when it's just you start to, and if enough people tell you something wrong with you, you're weak, you're broken, you will start to believe it. So hearing from other people humanizes us, it validates our feelings, and it also helps us to develop more compassion or compassion and empathy. It enables us to now hear other people because now we feel more human. So it's like, let me be more human for someone else. We can now, we can listen to others. And in that space, the main thing that the women always say is that they really feel it's a safe space. They feel that they can say whatever it is that they need to say. Nobody's going to judge them. Nobody's going to give them unwanted advice. Nobody's going to tell them, oh, you should do this. Nobody's going to tell them, don't worry about, no. It's just, oh, thank you for sharing, or I hear you, or I feel you. And I haven't done it so often recently, but I often say, everybody should, just like you said, everyone should go and create their own space, whether it's, online, wherever. Everybody needs to have someone, or a safe, non-judgmental place where they can be human. They can say, I feel like this about that, and I don't need you to fix me, I just need you to hear me.
One of the coaches that she go by the Ratchet Sage, she called them actionable safe spaces. And I totally believe the Black Woman Venting Room because I'm part of it. It's a actionable safe space, a place where you can go with your issues. Nobody's gonna judge you, and your neighbors are not gonna know about it the next day. So it's a wonderful place that I invite women, especially Black women, to go.
Thank you.
Now you juggle multiple roles in life. You're a life coach, lawyer, a mentor, and the future president of Ghana. How do you maintain balance between these responsibilities while prioritizing your own well-being and personal aspirations?
Thank you. I'm fortunate that I have, and or I have built, a community to support me. Um, Not only do I have my partner and my children, and you may think, how my children are a support, but they are, in the sense of how I'm raising them, the conversations I have with them. They can help me hold myself accountable for my feelings. So, for example, my eldest might say to me, "Oh, hi, mom, how are you doing?" And in that moment, if I'm not, I may be engaged in something, or maybe I'm off balance, I may say, yeah, I'm okay, or I'm fine. And then he will say to me, are you sure, mum? Because you don't look okay. So now I have to actively engage with him and just check, okay, am I lying to him? Because obviously that's not what I want to teach him. So I have to check in, like, well, actually, no, today's been, I think I apologized at some point where things were really busy. I said, sorry, I've been a bit grouchy. So then that was a reminder to me that, yeah, this is not sustainable. I need to take some things out of my diary. So there's my children, there's my partner. Most of them, they know if they haven't heard me sing for a while, then they'll check in with me, because singing is kind of like my personal therapy. It really does uplift me, puts me in a good mood. So there's that. And then there are other people, my mum, sisters, women in the communities I hold, that every now and again we do check in. Oh, hey, I haven't heard from you. How are you doing? What's going on? Um, the venting spaces, as I said to you, that they're not just for the people that they attend. They're as much for me as the people who attend. So they actually form a very important part of my self-care regime. They give me space to reflect on what is going on, and to vent myself. So it's like what I've created for others, I've created for myself. And because I talk to people, I and they know that I'm open to feedback. There are people that they can say, nah, or my sister might ring me up. It's like, you left that message. That really didn't sound like you. Are you okay? So I have people who know me well enough to kind of discern if they think something's off and ask me point blank, like, what's going on? Is everything okay? Do I need assistance? So in that way, I can I can help, I'll say, achieve a certain kind of harmony. There are times where I had one week, I said, no, I can't have a repeat of that week. Like the way I had back to back meetings out of the wish to, to serve, to help people. And then I looked at that and I said, nope, I cannot have a week like that, because I was snappy. So I blocked out my diary. Sometimes my partner's saying, are you sure you're going to go to this meeting? Because you look tired. And then I'll think, yeah, I really don't want to, so then it will remind me that I can say no, because sometimes I do need reminding. We're human. So yeah, I'm fortunate. I think I've got lots of little mechanisms, people, support, structure to help me do that.
Oh, I love it. Your work is not just about individual healing, it's all about community building. What do you hope to achieve with these virtual communities, and how do you believe they can transform the way people support each other during crisis?
That's a beautiful question. I subscribe to the idea that what we do, even though we can't see what's out in the world, what I'm doing is a microcosm of what's going out of the world. We may call it, the ripple effect. So even if I'm on a platform and there are only five of us, those we five people, we are representatives and or reflections for many other people like that in the world. So us being in that space, when we go to now our different communities, whether they are paid communities, whether it's our family, colleagues, we now show up differently. So the people that we interact with will feel the benefit of the work that we are doing. And without almost telling them to do so, you'll pay it forward. Because if somebody starts treating you consistently in a certain way, you'll take that on. If it's something that you appreciate, is great. You start to learn that. You start to behave that way. So it's like creating a ripple effect that it goes out there, it goes further out there. So that's one way. It's like by example. This whole thing about me saying I'm vying for president. What I didn't say is that I say no. Well, I say that the country needs a female leader. However, it can't just be one woman at the top. Women need to filter into, infiltrate the whole system. So we do have better balance and harmony. So I'm going, but I need you to come with me. It's not a one woman show. So yeah, it's kind of leading by example. We'll do it. And then when you go out, you do it. And that's why I'd say, yeah, go and create your own space, because these communities, they're free. They're online, they're free. We don't charge. A number of times people have asked me, do I want to monetize those communities? Now, you can say never, but there's something in me that every time I try to do it, it doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't feel, it's like, no, this is a space for us to, like you said, there are many people they can't afford therapy or what have you. And for me, the main thing is that I'm fortunate that that is not what I rely on to financially look after my family. I have some to do that. So this is why, again, why it's part of my self-care structure, part of my community service, if you like. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. Many women feel that motherhood and caregiving require sacrificing their personal dreams. What advice do you have for women who struggle with guilt when trying to pursue their own goals or their own dreams?
I love that question. It's funny, I don't really give advice because I'm a coach, apart from legal advice. And even that, now I've switched to legal coaching. However, what I would say, I wish, I had known, is that the thing that sticks with me when I was coming to leave my marriage and my children were young, they were 3 and 6, was when a friend said to me, if you are okay, they will be okay. And that's all I needed in terms of helping me reassure myself that I was making the decision that was best at that time, you know? So, what I would say is that there can still be that negative connotation with focusing on yourself as an individual. We think, yes, the children, they are not yet independent, they're not able to defend themselves and things. We think they're fragile and everything. The thing that I think we forget is that they are tiny human beings. They are individuals. They too are going to grow to be like us. So, and they absorb, right? Isn't it? They absorb their surroundings. They absorb a lot of what we do in term more so than what we say. They take in everything. So I would ask them, as I would have wish somebody had asked me, is yes, I know you love your children and you want them to do the best. However, if they were in your shoes, what would you tell them to do? And what are we teaching them by not following our dreams? For my boys, I didn't realize, like I said, our children absorb things. And I didn't really realize, there was one time where I was really shocked because one point, one of my children said to me, "Oh, mum, we really love that you do all these things, that, you're doing your coaching and you're doing your live sessions." And they listed these things. And I thought, I was shocked because I didn't think that they were aware of I was doing all of that stuff. And they were. And so it made me very fiercely passionate about making sure that when they grow, when they leave the home, that they don't think that a woman and or a mother is one thing. Yes, I'm their mother. I love them. They know I work. I do this thing. They know I have friends. I go out. I socialize. They can see that there are multiple parts of me, and they don't. Those other parts of me do not take away from me being their mother and me loving them and doing the things that I need to do or want to do for them. So what I say is this: it can be really difficult. As much as we know, put your own oxygen mask on before somebody else's. Yeah, we get it, but it's still difficult, right? So what I encourage us to do is, if you are not yet in the position where you can say, I need to do this thing for me, the individual, because it's going to help with my confidence, it's going to allow me to be a better human being, whatever the reason is. If I cannot just do that for me, for every single person that is relying on me, whether it's my children, my husband, partner, spouse, whatever, do that for them. Take care of you for them, because actually are we are the human being that is our number one responsibility. Nobody else has responsibility to take care of us but us. So if we can learn that and we do that, we are doing something good for ourselves, and we are teaching our children also that they have to take care of themselves. Yes, I'm their mother, they're minors, but I'm stepping back. There's more and more that they now need to be doing for themselves, not because I'm not doing my job. I am doing my job. I love how, I forget the name of the person, but there was a woman who phrased it such as, if we do our job as mothers correctly, we should prepare ourselves to become redundant. As in, like, our children don't really need us, they want to be around us, awesome, but they don't. We've taught them so well, or guided or mentored them so well, that they know how to think for themselves. They can problem solve for themselves. They can always come home, they can ask us questions, but they have tools. We've equipped them with things to navigate through life. So that's what I would say. If you can't do it for yourself outright, start with doing it for them.
I love that if you are good, everything they're gonna be good. If you're okay, everything is gonna be okay. And also, what are you teaching them? I love that very, very much. Thank you for that answer. Very powerful. As a highly accomplished woman, how do you navigate the pressure of career, family life, and leadership? What values you're passing into your sons to guide them to grow into resilient and compassionate individuals?
With the balancing again, it's funny with my life. I don't like the balance in terms of when they say work life balance. I try not to use the word balance. I more move towards harmony and integration, because One day can be 50-50, 50% work, 50% home stuff. Another day can be 70% work, 30% anything else. Another day can be, I'm knackered now. Now I need 80% for me. The rest of you will have to manage with 20%. So, I don't like the concept of balance, because without saying it, for some of us, it says to us, it has to be 50-50. Like, it has to be consistent all the time. And if you're super ambitious, I personally think that that can set you up for failure when you don't achieve it. So I just like, okay, today is like this, tomorrow is like that, 1 week is like this, okay, that's not sustainable. Next week we'll do it a bit different. So that's how I'm in a stage of my life where I really allow myself to be in the flow. And a big part of that is actually relocating from the UK to Ghana, having much more control over my day to day so that I can be there for my children when I need to. I have community here, not just like my partner, the boys. We have community, we have neighbors, the children can go there, others can come here. So that's a big part of that harmony integration. Like, I really have a village. For me, in our question, it's important to be aware, or strive to allow yourself to be emotional, as in, so the emotional management it's important, because like I said, it makes us human. How to understand ourselves, how to understand other people, but also what to do with those emotions, because we can use them for functional things or dysfunctional things. So, for example, in our house, the rule is you're allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to break anything, hurt anyone, and hurt yourself. Like, so you need to find some other way to handle that anger. If you need to shout, if you need to go swimming, if you need whatever it is, So that we talk about a lot. Asking questions and curiosity is very important. For me, it's a bit challenging for the children, because the culture here that we experience is that children, to a certain extent, are seen and not heard. And that's not how my boys were being raised before we came here. So we've had to be very careful. They've been had to be very careful, and it's been difficult because sometimes they felt muffled. They couldn't say something. Whereas with us, we ask them loads of questions. We challenge them to ask us lots of questions. For me, when you're asking questions, it shows your level of intelligence. That's how I am. So it's really important, passing that on to them, that they must ask questions. Sometimes they may actually, we may, what can I say? We may frown on them because they haven't asked a question and they've made an assumption. So we really quite hard on them in terms of, assumptions doesn't help any of us. Yeah. If you don't know, ask a question. And then just how to navigate. Okay, well, maybe at school you have to find a different way to ask that question, or in this place you have to find a different way to ask that question. But do ask, be curious, because it's one of the things I think that gets adulterated out of us. We then just that's why it then becomes very easy, or we end up conforming, because maybe we've been slapped down so much for asking questions, we just stop asking and we just start following. And then compassion, really, it's have the time to understand people. You don't have to necessarily agree, and there are things that you just think is absolutely wrong. But if you yourself want compassion, you need to know how to show or give compassion. You know, so with the boy with the boys, it's they may not agree on things, and it's asking them questions or saying to them, well, but he's not you. You're not him. Just because he reacts that way, or that's how he deals with it. Would you like someone to tell you, well, this is how you must respond to that thing? But no, because your personalities are not the same.
Especially with two boys, I love that part. As a future leader of a grand nation like Ghana, how important do you think emotional health is in politics and governance? Are today's leaders giving this issue the attention it deserves?
No. I'll just say no. I'm very fortunate to have in my circles, people who work in the mental health space, mental, emotional health, very closely related. So, and whilst strides are being made, like progress is being made, there's still a massive stigma around mental health. And even with the emotional health, it's not normal. It's not normal to be talking about your personal business and for someone to just listen and maybe offer encouraging words, or someone to listen to you without feeling the need to give you advice. The thing is, the reason why I'm so I'm so passionate about us sharing our emotions, venting and things, is that actually emotions, they're temporary. They'll always move. They don't stay with us forever. But if we keep them bottled up, they lead to, if you've kept them bottled up for a long time, they actually cause physical damage, physical disease, health conditions. So, in terms of the leadership, no. Like I said, mental health space is moving on, but there's definitely, I don't hear any talk about, well, why should this be on the agenda? Because it can still feel like very touchy feely. Like, what does that lead to? However, there are statistics out there in terms of, what emotional awareness, intelligence, balance, the benefits it can have in corporate life. I say talk corporate. But remember, we're humans first. It doesn't matter what office you hold, you're still a human first. So unless you're going to transform into some robot to now go and occupy this office, you still need to know how to be a human and deal with human beings. Sometimes I think we forget that. You go into a space and kind of switch yourself off, and then wonder why there's a disconnect. Because you stop being human.
Absolutely. I took a coaching program called Positive Intelligence with Chit Shamin. And I learned in that program that emotions should be in our body from 5 to 10 seconds, and they only come to our body to let us know that something is wrong. And from there, we should use them to fix that issue or put attention on the issue. The problem is that we give so much energy that then they poison our being. And when I learned that, I was like, oh, wow. So I remind myself every time I get like this, 5 seconds, only 5 seconds. And I believe if we have leaders with emotions that are controlled, that they know and they understand how they work and why they come to our body, we will not have all these issues in the world, and people will stop fighting and having war like this today. You spoke about vulnerability as a key part of empowerment. How can society begin to see vulnerability as a strength rather than weakness?
Oh, okay, thank you. I think that work has already begun. There are thankfully lots more spaces, lots more people speaking about, especially in the mental health space, if you emotional health space, about the need to do that. A need to be, that can go hand in hand with being transparent. When you're transparent, you take down your barriers or your guards, your defenses, and you say things as they are. That too is being like vulnerable, being honest, being clear about what you're saying. So I think that work has already started. It is depending where it comes from, because people will have different agendas and motivations for saying whatever it is that they say. Sometimes maybe the terminology has to change. That message about vulnerability being strength. I think it is out there, but maybe it's on my radar because that's what I gravitate to. So it's when it can go to places like when you say mainstream, whether it's in the schools, it's in civil service, it's, you know, where everyday life. And really finding terminology that people really resonate with. Like I said, oh no, you're just being honest. And some of it is generational, you know, how things used to happen versus how they happen now. I can't just stand here and, you know, pretend to be sitting in some, as they say, ivory tower, like I'm a perfect human being with no blemish. That can cause disconnect, because then people are thinking that, wow, this person is like a god, you know, like idolize the person. It's like with celebrities, oh, they can never attain this or get there. It can be disconnecting, as opposed to, oh, this person is human. They understand what it is that I go through, you know, because they're like me. Oh, okay, I understand that. So when they say this, I'm more likely to believe what they're saying, you know, and me too. Now I can say that. In schools, I don't know if it's changing, but I find it interesting that this concept of, you know, like failure and success with children, I think it's said, or people are trying to say it more often, that when you, in terms of making mistakes, encouraging children to make mistakes, because what mistakes show you is that at least you tried. If everything is going well, it's like, well, it begs the question, have you done anything you have not done before? You know, if you tried something and it fails, it's like, oh, you took a risk, you took a gamble. And we need to do that, because nothing is guaranteed, you know. So you try this, if that doesn't work, well, at least you know now that that doesn't work, so now you need to find something else. So even just encouraging that, to be that the vulnerability, it's not weakness, it's not failure, it's showing that this is a natural part of life. So that when you have the strengths, the victories, you know, it's not lopsided. Yes, you have the victories and the strength, but there's a contrast. There's when things are not going so well. There's things when we don't feel so strong. And that too is normal part of life.
Absolutely. I remember once I was very so I made a mistake and someone started telling me lots of things and I start crying and the person went like, "Oh, shut up. Don't come with that vulnerable blah 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 blah. Put it away. This is business," and stuff like that. And I look at the person and I say to myself, I do not wish to be or make business with this person. I believe vulnerability is a superpower that many people don't have or they don't want to show because they want to show to the world that they're strong.
Exactly.
And that looks as weakness is actually weakness is actually a superpower because you are being able to express how you're feeling without fear. I love that word. So we are almost finished. Like they say, every great thing always come to an end. But I have a question that I think is a very powerful question, and I cannot wait to hear what you have to say. Looking forward to the future, how do you see a role of African women or Black women evolving on a global stage? What shift you think are necessary for more women of color or Black or copper or indigenous women to take control of their destinies and progress in their communities and in a global scale?
That's a powerful question. Um, to a certain extent, I think we need to stop looking at the men and focus on ourselves. There are a lot of women empowerment, women initiatives, and I'm sure you'll agree that there are different ways to do those things. Um, Essentially, when we're looking at empowerment, we have to step back to ourselves and take responsibility, you know, for that. So then if we're looking to do that, as a collective, if you like, as women, we need to look at the things that maybe we don't like to look at, the times where we compete with one another, we will pull ourselves down, we will, do things that are not actually conducive to, or they're not in alignment with collaborating, because it does happen. It does happen. We have to realize the reality of that. And would not shy away from that. Why? Because we're humans. We're not perfect. But for me, it doesn't help when, and I don't give the men a pass. Obviously, I'm making generalizations, but I can't say that, oh, all men are like this or all men are like that. No. However, for me, a lot of who they are or what they do to a certain extent is, well, we're here together, men and women. So we will reflect one another and interact. So we also need to look at our own flaws, take care of our own business, as it were, and then how we put that out there. Perfect example of this for me is that the Black Women Inventing Room has been running for about 4 years now, something 4 or 5 years. The Black Men Venting Room, I did actually run a few sessions a few years back. They didn't really take to a certain extent. It was difficult for men to open up in that way. It's lovely to see that more of them are doing that. But what I have learned through holding this space for the women for a long time is that there are a lot of things that we need to resolve amongst ourselves before we can address them with men or certain men without conflict, without feeling defensive, without wanting to hurt them. There was a time where I was going to hold a session on, the theme was those who hurt us, not men, just those. Could have been your friends, your partners, your sibling, whatever. And I remember something being expressed, from a woman that, okay, yes, we should have this theme, and we should invite the men so that they can see just how bad, they are treating us. And I remember thinking, and I discussed later, I said, yeah, that's not a healthy place to come from. Yes, I know in your situation, you've been hurt by men. Many of us have been hurt by men in different things. Men have also been hurt by women. There are lots of perspectives to this. So for me, it's important that women, we look at ourselves together. It's important for the men to look at themselves together. Then those who are doing that work, for men and women to be able to come together and interact in a way which is not to attack or be defensive, but actually listen to one another. Because when we do that, you'll find that actually we do support one another. I don't really buy this. I've never really bought this battle of the sexes. For me, that's a, not that it's complete fiction, but I so see how it is fueled, that narrative on social media. And yet, because I have the privilege of, running the women's room and running the men's room, so this is men talking to me and another woman, we have that space. A lot of the things that they share, the women will share the same thing, which shows us that we're all human, but we don't all have the space to be able to share our pain, and to somebody who's not going to take that pain and throw it back in our face. So I love that there are more men who are doing work with women and women who are doing work with men, because that's what we're here together. Unless you're going to tell me that we're going to eradicate one like eradicate the men. No, it's like, how do we coexist peacefully, and how do we learn to discern when the messages being put out there in public are still being sent to divide us? Like, that's a choice that's a decision we have to make. But yeah, like I said, we need to handle our own business as women and just be real. Like, well, why are we doing that? How is that helping us? What can we do it instead? Where did it come from? And that's what for me, taking self-responsibility, self-accountability is about.
And I have a question. Like, if you can travel 20 years, it's you've been a lawyer over 20 years. If you can travel 20 years what would you say to now?
20 years into the future?
Backward.
Oh, back. If I went back. Oh, okay. Yes. Um, I would tell myself to stop doubting myself and that I don't have to be perfect and everything always works out. Everything always works out on some level. Even though we don't know how, it just does.
Finally, what legacy do you want to leave? How would you like to be remembered by your children's and the future generations in Ghana and across the globe?
That's a loaded question. I'll say the first thing that came to mind, I would like to be remembered as sunshine in human form.
I love it. That's a really great answer. All right. Nah, this has been an extraordinary conversation. Your journey, your mission, and your unwavering commitment to transforming are true inspiration. Before we wrap up, what final message would you like to share with the audience and tell them where they can find you?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Karola. Always great to be in your company, and I love the work that you're doing. For me, can we be a little more kind to ourselves, as in be kind to yourself? Whatever stage you are at in your life, whether you're happy to be there, whether you're not happy to be there, be kind to yourself because it goes a long way. The more kind we can be to ourselves, the kinder we will find a way to be others. It may seem very simple, but as we have seen, simple is not always easy. So be more kind to yourself. When you talk to yourself in your head, ask yourself when things are not going right, is that the way that you would talk to your best friend or somebody that you love or care about? Because our words carry weight, don't they? So thank you once again, Karola. You can find me on Instagram at Black Women Venting Room or Black Men Venting Room. That's the easiest way to find me. You can send me a message or Naa Amerley for President. So, yeah, I hope to see some of you around. Karola, it's always a pleasure. And thank you to you and to your audience.
Very much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your vision, and your heart with us today. We wish you all success in your journey to leadership and beyond. It has been an absolutely honor to have you in the Alma Dorada podcast. And to you there is listening right there, remember that you are the light in the darkness. And I, your coach Carola, La Alma Dorada, mwah, I love you with all my heart. Bye bye. Thank you. Nah.